Hey there! There are certain pen brands that people gravitate towards, and for different people those will be different brands, but I'm always interested in hearing why people go for certain brands. Now today I'm talking about this pen. This is a Laban pen. Laban is a company from Taiwan, founded in 1981 by two brothers. Been around, 1981, been around for a while. And some of my earlier pens actually were Laban pens. And I have found them to be consistently well made, often of very attractive materials. And that is something that I think is a level of consistency that I really appreciate. The nibs are very hard, although this one actually has a bit of spring to it. Typically they're quite hard and rigid, but they are pleasant writers. Now this is the Rosa in Passion Red. It's a lighter pen. It's meant to be, it's kind of designed to be used by first-time pen users, which is an interesting market to focus on. It's kind of simple. It's no frills, cartridge converter, steel nib, a very pleasant pen and a beautiful material. You'll see it better when I tilt the camera down and you can have a look without me waving things around. It's quite nice. So it was lent to me by Joost Appelboom. I appreciate it. Again, I've owned a number of Laban pens. Hardly ever have I had issues. Typically out of the box, they're great writers, and they're well made, again, in very pretty material. So let's have a look at this pen, cover the parts of the pen. I'll do a writing sample. I'll tell you what I like about it and what I don't like about it. Let's get started. Okay, let's talk about this Laban Rosa Passion Red. 95 euros and 4 cents without tax, but remember that 10% discount code through the code FRIEND at Appelboom. Let's look at the box. Simple box, paper, outer sleeve. Then you have these boxes, and I really like these boxes, and the reason I like them is that it feels like they're covered almost in something like a silk. There's a little bit of texture to it. It's really quite cute. Refill your soul by writing, and then you have these sort of stylized nibs. I just think it's a very elegant design. Out comes the little pen bed, and underneath that is a booklet, which has various different interesting filling instructions, etc. And there is the little page mark, bookmark that Laban gives you for free, which I think is quite cute. Also, orange and blue is a combination I like a lot color-wise. So I always like these boxes. Just putting it out of the way, and then I will show you the pen. So here we go. Let me zoom in so you can actually see some detail. Rosa Red Laban right next to a Pilot Metropolitan. So as I said, it's about 95 euros. You can get extra fine, medium and broad steel nibs. This is clearly the Passion Red finish. There's also a yellow finish and a blue finish. I forgot what they're called, but they're quite nice too. The pen is meant to be lightweight, good balance, and quote, best choice for first-time pen users. There's something to be said for that. Nice and light, easy filling system. Comes with a converter. There was no cartridge included, but it does come with a converter for a first-time user. That might actually be a little complicated, but there we are. It's inspired by neoclassical architectural columns, and as a result the pen is kind of shaped that way, and then you have a nice triangle clip, and I will say I find that clip nice, and it looks quite refined, which is pretty neat. Let's cover the other parts of this pen. Just putting the wires of my microphone out of the way. On top, the finial, pointy, same material as the rest of the cap though, a nice gold colored ring, and the clip. The clip feels like it's spring loaded, and that works really well, so that's pretty cool. You can't really operate it by pushing down here, but the spring loaded works well. Then we have a Greek key center band, which I think is quite nice. And we have the barrel. The barrel tapers down, then you have another gold colored ring. The balance in this, red gold red gold red, I think works quite nicely, and the pointy bits on both ends I think look kind of neat. The cap unscrews, and then we have a pen. It's by no means a huge pen, but it's quite comfortable. Section tapers down and flares out ever so little bit, and it is nice and rounded. These threads are a little sharp when you really rub down on them like this. Once your finger is on them, I think they're quite good, and you don't really feel much of them. Now the advantage of this pen is that it posts, and it posts fairly deeply, so it's secure posting, and then you have a really nicely sized pen that I think will work well for many people. I've always liked the Laban nibs. They're nicely engraved. They have the sort of laurel crown. They have Laban on them. It says iridium. In this case, it is a fine nib. You can barely see it, but there is an F right above where the nib meets the section. We have a simple plastic feed, and then the pen is fed through a cartridge converter system, and it is actually labeled Laban. I always find that a little bit of bonus points. I know it does not make a big difference in the grand scheme of things. I know it does not really make a difference for how the pen or the cartridge converter performs, but it's a good eye for detail. One thing I forgot to point out in the likes and dislikes, I now realize, I'm sorry, is that you do have metal threads in the section on an acrylic barrel. And over time, those threads could theoretically wear out. So this is the kind of pen where I would say, do not use it as a fidget toy, but actually use it. Unscrew it only when you have to refill it or clean it. Let's do a writing sample. I'm posting it, and I don't think I have to zoom out. It looks pretty good. Here we have the Laban Rosa Passion red with a fine steel nib, and the ink is blue. The nib has settled a bit, but out of the box I found it on the drier end of things. And why not? When I do fast writing and I'll use no pressure, I bet that will manifest itself. You can see it is quite dry, and therefore there is some skipping. It's an easy fix, but for the review I wanted to show you the nib out of the box. Bear in mind, again, I've used a lot of Laban pens. I haven't really run into an awful lot of nib issues, so I think this is just a bit of an odd duck. I wouldn't be put off the brand by that. Sometimes they slip through and they're a bit dry. Again, making a nib wetter is a fairly easy fix, but you do have to be willing to do that. So if I put in some pressure, look at that, it becomes a lot wetter, and that just suggests to me that it really is a matter of the nib is just a bit too dry. So the slit is too tight. Open up the slit a bit, it'll get wetter, everything is more lubricated, everything is easier. You see, when I use a little bit of pressure, you get this really nice flow. So I have no doubt that this is an easy fix. Interesting about this nib, I found that it's not a flex nib, and be very, very careful, but it has fairly long tines. And you can actually squeeze out a bit of line variation, which I will say, especially with its fine nature, does make for some fun writing. If only I could do copper plate, but I can't, so this is what you get. How about reverse writing, for those who enjoy such a thing? So here I've gone from some pressure to absolutely no pressure, and you see the difference, right? Now, reverse writing is very dry. I'm not surprised, because you're dealing with a dry nib to begin with. Again, with some pressure, very nice writer. So if this were my property, which it isn't, I would make it a little bit wetter, run a brass shim through the tines. It's very easy. You can pull these nibs and feeds pretty easily too, so it's really not a big deal. But it should be pointed out, it was dry, and again it has settled itself a little bit, but it's still a bit dry. So that should be pointed out, and I should have said that a bit more explicitly in the likes and dislikes. So sorry about that. Let's discuss likes and dislikes. What do I like? What do I not like about this Laban? I still don't know how to pronounce that name. Is it Laban? Is it Laban? I don't know. If someone does know, please leave a comment, because I've been kind of gallifying it by French Laban. Anyway, doesn't matter. What do I like? What do I not like? It's a solid pen, and I don't have an awful lot to negatively comment on. It's 95 euros. I know there are cheaper options out there, but what you do get for that amount of money is a very well-made pen, matching section to the rest of the material. I always like that. Well made, pleasant to use, it is comfortable, it is well balanced, it is a very pleasant writer in what I think is very warm and stunning material. So I like it a lot, and as a result I've been playing with it, and I don't really have any incredibly negative things to say about it. Light, well balanced, I find it very comfortable. For me, this is kind of at the limit of what I can use unposted, but posted, cap is not super heavy, posts somewhat deeply. I would say the barrel is about halfway into the cap. Balanced, pleasant to use, comfortable, good writer. You have some nib options, extra fine, fine, medium, broad, in an era where a lot of companies are kind of letting go of broad or extra fine. I think it's very nice to have that option. It works well. I think this is indeed the kind of pen that you can give to a first-time fountain pen user and say, well, have fun with it, and they would. Simple, no frills, but I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just a well-designed pen, and I think it's nice. It's nicely made. So I don't really have much. Things I don't like. Initially when I got it, the nib was a little dry, and I wasn't quite sure what caused that. When I get new pens into review, I always flush them with a little bit of dishwashing detergent and water first, in case there's any machine oil residue in the feed, or sometimes in the converter. It was very dry, but then it picked up, and now it seems to be fine. So I don't think that was an issue with the nib. I think that was magic. Could it be cheaper? Yeah, it can always be cheaper, but it's not. So that's kind of a moot point. I think 95 euros for a pen like this, yes, I mean, you get to a stage where slowly but steadily you start to expect a gold nib. Most of the Laban pens are steel nibs, if not all of them. But again, they're very pleasant nibs, so I don't know what a gold nib would really add. I think the price is fair for what you get, which is a very comfortable, pleasant writer. But to each their own, and some people might disagree with that. Again, I think it's a solid company, and I don't review the company, I do review the pen, but having used a lot of Laban pens, having owned a lot of Laban pens, I really like them. And so, again, tying into what I opened with, there are certain brands you gravitate towards if you want cool, colorful acrylics. And this, in my mind, was one of the first companies to really dig into that, having cool, fun acrylics, not celluloid, just acrylics, a bit more affordable, nice steel nibs, work well, simple but steady. I think it's really neat. So I think there is something to be said for that. That's all I have. I hope this was useful. A very kind thank you to Joost for lending me this. I nearly sneezed there, sorry. Hope this was useful. Let me know what you think. And would you get this in the yellow, blue, or red? For me, it would be red, but I'm curious to hear what you think. And don't forget 10% discount, right? Joost Appelboom, the website. It's not Joost Appelboom. Appleboom.com. Use the code FRIEND, you get a 10% discount. That would knock off some of the price. There we are. Hope this was useful. Glad to see you later. Bye.